from the planning department to give us a briefing on the comprehensive plan, and I'll let you take it from here. Would you like questions as we go, or would you like everyone to save their questions till the end?
I think we can take questions as we go.
Perfect.
That's fine.
Awesome.
So thank you for the time today. We won't take too much of it, and we want to make sure that you're up to speed on where we're at with the comprehensive plan approval process as we get into the formal approval process with both the City Council and the County Board. So myself, David Carey, Director of the Planning Department. We have Paul Barnes, the Manager of the Long Range Planning Division. And I will point out Andrew Theroff, he was the Project Manager for the comprehensive plan process. So you have the triumvirate here for asking questions, I guess is the way to put it. We do have a presentation that we'll go through fairly quickly, but definitely give us your questions as we go. It's been a process that has been about 2 years in the making, actually more than 2 years as far as internal work is concerned. And we do appreciate your involvement to date. We know that we've been in front of you a lot as far as whether it's been small group or presentations like this. So we do appreciate your input along the way. It definitely has helped make sure that we're staying on track and we understand what your concerns are and what your ideas are. So that's very much appreciated. I will point to basically a statement that we have in the plan, and it really brings in that thriving, livable, equitable, innovative, and resilient, those themes that we started with. And that has been resonating throughout the process, and we see those topics and those themes in the plan document that we have now in front of you for your action. So that's been a focus of our work, and it's gotten to a point where we feel very good about the draft plan, as well as the process that we took to get to this point. So the plan layout, we have actually a new version of the plan. We have a web version of the plan. We also have a traditional PDF available as well, especially for printing purposes. But the web version is set up such that you can be interconnected amongst different pieces and parts of the plan. And this, we're going to point out that we have 15 goals, which is really the big picture statements for the community and for the plan itself. 9 elements, and then you see those listed there. And those are really kind of get into a lot of information for background. And then really the meat of the plan is the 80 policies and the hundreds of action items and steps that we have in there. So that really gets to the point of, okay, what are we going to do with all this? What is the purpose of this? So what we have are those policies. And again, that's all interconnected on the web version of the plan. This is information that you've seen before. We won't spend too much time on it, but the comprehensive plan is first and foremost a physical planning document. We are a growing community. That is a good thing. It keeps us dynamic, keeps things interesting, brings challenges along with it as well, though. So what we have in this plan is a growth framework that allows us to grow and meet the needs of serving 48,000 additional housing units by 2050 from 2020. 25% of that is planned to be infill into the existing city, but then a full 75% is on the edge. And what you see in purple there are the land masses that are needed to be able to accommodate that 75% of that growth that we're planning for out to 2050. And that equates to about 7 square miles of buildable land. So that's outside of floodplain, outside of physical limitations that are on the edge parts of our community. So that's been something that's been out for discussion for over a year now, actually. So that was back in the fall of 2020 when we brought that out. Along with that comes a future land use plan. That again is a kind of a nuts and bolts piece of any type of comprehensive plan. This is for the full county, and you'll see that the part of Lincoln that is the more colorful part in the middle, and that map now shows those growth areas added to it now. So if you look closely, you'll see some of that the Stevens Creek growth and that southern growth, and we even have that growth in the southwest and to the northwest. I will point out that there is a new land use that's added to this plan. It's light industrial. That's what that star signifies that. The light purple, we have that sprinkled out throughout the community as well as in some of those growth areas that we identified, new growth areas, I should say. So that is a significant, albeit something that was decided on over a year ago to put into the plan. That is a new piece to this, and it's something that's going to give us flexibility and opportunity for those kind of more lighter uses that aren't quite as heavy and invasive than heavy industrial. And so with that, we're not going to linger on this too long. But I'm going to hand it off to Paul, and we're going to go through a little bit of an overview of the content of the plan.
Right, so we've had the top 10 before you, I think at least a couple times. We won't go into too much detail on this, but this has been our consistent message as we do presentations with the public and different groups, really highlighting those areas that we took a deeper dive into and also added new content to the plan. So you see the first 5 of those top 10 on this screen here. I think a lot of these are bringing excitement to not only to our organization, but kind of across the community. I think Complete Neighborhoods is going to be an interesting and fun project to work on as we continue that discussion moving forward. And then we have the second 5 of the 10. Again, bringing in a lot of other resources that have been developed or exist within our community, such as the Climate Action Plan, such as the work that the Chamber does in their economic development area. That fed a lot into the workforce development topic. But again, these are really the top 10 that we felt were maybe most exciting or of most interest because they are newer content to this comprehensive plan. David mentioned our new format, and this is the landing page for the website. Hopefully you've had a chance to go there, kind of explore and click around. You'll see the different sections on the heading up above, and then that darker arrow does point to the PDF version, which is still available. If anyone needs to print off a hard copy, we can sure do that as well.
Thank you.
We'd like to get into the process a little bit more with this conversation. And as you probably know from previous conversations, we had a committee structure with our community committee, about 30-some individuals that were representing the broader interests of our community and the county. We had a staff committee that was about the same size, that was some more technical expertise on the city and county side. And then we had an equity subcommittee that was 15 individuals that took a deeper dive into the topic of equity and looking at existing and proposed policies and goals for Plan Forward. We held a lot of events, major public events, including the visioning session at the arena. We also had a virtual event along with that. And again, we did continue the virtual events throughout the whole process because of the pandemic. So after that, we quickly switched to that format and had a policy framework virtual event in the summer of 2020. We did actually hold in-person discussions with county folks. We did go to Hickman and Waverly and also held one here in our building. Again, because we are a joint department and city-county plan. Additional events, we had another virtual event in November of 2020. And you see the numbers there. We really did reach quite a few folks in terms of the page views and getting out to, hopefully, we think, more people in different ways. As we go forward with different planning projects, we plan to continue a hybrid approach where we will do in-person and virtual events. We had the draft plan out for review just a little earlier this fall in September, and that was available for people to go and review the content and make any sort of comments on. And then we did go to the Planning Commission for a hearing October 27th. We did hear testimony in support. There were a few letters sent in as well. We didn't receive any testimony in opposition. And the Planning Commission did unanimously vote to recommend approval. We've had many other outreach activities. We've done briefings with this body as well as the county board. We did some youth outreach early on in the process. We had a housing focus group. We had a community committee housing and development discussion where we brought in experts from those fields. We had our director lead us in in hosting our late afternoon show where we brought in experts in different topic areas and did an interview
That was really a result
format.
of the pandemic. That's just the only thing.
Those seem to have stopped, and I haven't seen any additional car videos either.
Oh, carpool karaoke. What happened to that?
You guys need like an end of the road carpool karaoke.
You probably
some
should,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
Okay, another
please.
task.
So,
All right, we'll get on
another
that.
task.
Social media was heavily used, as you can see there with the numbers. We always do our email blasts, numerous presentations to community organizations. I'll note that towards the end of the public process, more recently we've actually been out to about 18 additional groups to do presentations reaching literally hundreds of folks during those. So it's a smaller setting in relative terms, I guess, but you get to have more conversations and one-off kind of input. So that was definitely beneficial. For our formal comments, we did receive 16 comments and 5 letters. Those were received between September 13th and October 8th. We received those through virtual meetings, through in-person events, and also just letters and emails. We had the cutoff time of October 8th because we wanted to prepare responses to review all of those and get back out to the community responses to all their comments. We tried to, make this process very transparent, to be open, and October 8th gave us a deadline in order for us to compile those responses and put them into our Planning Commission staff report attachment. So that's still out there and that's available, and you can see how comments were received and reviewed and addressed. In fact, more detail, all of the details for all of the comments and responses are in our appendix of our comprehensive plan, and that's a link on the planning department page under the comprehensive plan. It's a large document, but again, we wanted to put everything out there to make sure it was available and clear in terms of the process.
300 plus pages.
There's a lot of
Huge.
pages in there,
Yeah.
but I think it also shows that we value the input we receive and document it, and we want people to make sure that that's out there and that they hear that.
I have a question. Did you get any comments or did you hear anything in conversation about the length of review time? Did anyone say, gosh, I wish it was open for longer, or you didn't need to open it for 4 weeks, or?
No, we didn't get that specific comment.
Okay.
What we did, when people, we did get questions like, well, can I still comment after October 8th, for example? And we
Yeah.
said, certainly, because we continue to have, the webpage is available for comment, so we just really haven't gotten very many at all since that point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we didn't just shut it off, like, we didn't tell people we can't comment.
Mhm.
We did also say that we have the public process through the city council, the planning commission first, city council, and county board for public comment that way too.
Thank you.
Yep.
So in terms of the comments that we received, all of them that we've received to date have been reviewed and addressed and documented, and these are some of the ways that the comments have been evaluated and used. So some of them we received were already included elsewhere in the plan. If someone had a specific comment on this section, we said, oh, you know what? Because of the way it's organized now, it has a crossover here, and we directed them to that point. Other comments did actually result in revisions to the plan, and we updated that document and noted that. Other comments that we received are, not that they're bad ideas by any means, but they need more community conversation before they become a goal or policy in a comprehensive plan. So we noted that, it's documented, and we also note that we do updates to the comprehensive plan every 5 years. And among those 5 years, we accept comprehensive plan amendments where we can actually amend the document. So it's not to say that those comments won't ever be revisited again, but we just need to have more conversation and time to look at those additional comments. Also, in terms of topics like climate change, we have the climate action plan that's been adopted and we used a lot in Plan Forward. We do rely on those efforts as they continue to be implemented. The affordable housing plan is another good example that as it's implemented, we will work alongside that with our comprehensive plan. Any updates made between now and the next 5-year update, we'll be sure to incorporate those in there, if not sooner. Some examples that we'll note, we did receive comments from the Lancaster Event Center, and we did add a new discussion about that facility in the public facilities section, which is a great addition to the plan. We did include more detailed action steps for the local food policy. We did, as David pointed out, in land use, we added a light industrial land use category. And then we do have a transportation element as part of the comprehensive plan that is input from our long-range transportation plan. But comments on the transportation side include prioritizing maintenance and operations of our existing roadways. That's a very common theme we've heard. And then looking at extending operations and hours for Star train service. So all of those comments were included in the Planning Commission draft. And then lastly, I just wanted to touch on the approval process moving forward. For the comprehensive plan will be before the city council for hearing and action on the 22nd. The county board will have a hearing on the 16th and action on the 23rd. And then, as I mentioned, the long-range transportation plan, that has a separate approval process through the MPO, and that'll go to the technical committee on November 29th and to the officials committee for approval on December 15th. Are there questions or comments?
Councilwoman Washington?
I have a question about the comments, that last group of comments that you described as needing further community conversation. Do you have any of those off the top of your head? Like, what are the areas that folks are interested that couldn't be addressed right now?
Can you think of one?
Yeah, most of them are things related to sustainability and climate change. So an example was someone suggested that we should not allow gas appliances in new build construction, require new homes to be all electric. So it was a lot of things that were in the, so there was the 6-year climate action plan, and then there was the Vision Smart future. So it was things from that other future document that weren't included in the 6-year climate action plan. I would say most of the things that, not necessarily are bad ideas, but we think need kind of a bigger discussion and probably more into the climate action plan side of the discussion. So when the climate action plan is updated, it goes within the adopted into the comp plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councilman McGinnis?
I got a quick one. In there on a certain page, I can't remember which one it was, it said that we will implement the recommendations of the Salt Creek Resiliency Plan. Does that mean we're going to wait and we've already approved the plan, or do we need to have that out, or are we, how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, so I think that recommendation comes from the climate action plan and its adoption. And so that is not a new idea. That is not something that's new with Plan Forward, but it's something that was in the climate action plan and would be supported, but not a new idea from this comprehensive plan. So going forward, it would have its own implementation schedule and strategies as laid out in the climate action plan.
That's what I was thinking. Are we going to hear it? Can we have a discussion about the Salt Creek Resilience Plan?
Well, I think what Paul just said is what the future work and future discussion will be about that implementation part of it. So that's not, that all has to happen still. But that language that you referenced is what is already in the climate action plan. So we've just carried that forward into the
You
new plan.
decided not to pass the Salt Creek Resiliency Plan? You guys have any problems?
Well, I think if there was a,
Because we're going to have a separate vote on it, I
If-
presume.
It hasn't been approved.
right, if there is going to be a different outcome, we would be updating this plan, certainly. But this is just reflective of what that topic, how that's addressed already in the climate action plan, which is similar to how we handled a lot of those topics from the climate action plan, that it has the same or similar language in this plan, or we just reference the climate action plan.
You good? Any other questions?
I want to just tag on to what Richard said. I think. Build upon, thank you. Tag, build, whatever. When we were having the conversation about the climate action plan, and there was a lot of concern about items that had not yet been approved. And we said we would have separate conversations, those items would come before us, we would approve them. It just feels a little bit like pushing the answer, pushing the yes by noting it as if it was approved in the subsequent plan, because it hasn't been approved yet. And so I guess those are some, I'd like a little bit more wiggle room, like if it should be approved, we would move in this direction. Or, pending approval, we'll move in this direction.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment, and I appreciate yours too, Richard. I think, because we have had this discussion, I think the way that we see how this is written into the comprehensive plan is, whatever the findings are of that study that's still yet to be approved,
Yeah.
would be what would be implemented. So if it was decided not to approve it, we would not be moving forward with it. So that's the way that we kind of set this up.
I think the other part to note is just to be consistent with our planning efforts, and that the climate action plan was approved already in the 2040 comprehensive plan. And so we're just carrying that forward in 2050. And since that's a 6-year document, we've pulled out those first initial recommendations and put them throughout Plan Forward, like we've done with other sub-area plans and studies. Like I said, it's nothing, the content itself isn't new. It's just being used that way with this new comprehensive plan. I do agree. I think that those big, community-changing items do and will get more conversation before they're approved by, this broad vision document that'll come before you.
And would we need to be amending our comp plan then if we decide to change those?
Yeah, I think
We would
that,
have to go back and amend the comp plan because we
I-
said we would approve that.
I think that would be a way to handle that, yes. And we'll obviously be on top of that. We'll be ready to deal with a situation like that if it arises.
You don't have anything else to do.
It sort of feels like any decision we make, any action we make, basically amends the comp plan.
I think that's about right in the sense of, because we've already by reference brought in the climate action plan. So if that were to change, that document were to change, it does get changed into the comprehensive plan. But I think to be clean about it, at some point we would come back and amend the comprehensive plan too, yes.
Councilman Vecchia?
I would just like to say thank you to the planning department for their work on the comp plan. And one thing, one item in particular, because of the pandemic, the majority of these community meetings were held via Zoom and shared on the Facebook page for the 2050 comp plan. It was, I think, by far one of the most transparent public processes that we've had. And I just wanted to thank you guys for, that technology really allowed the transparency to be really easily delineated out to the rest of the community so that community folks could follow month by month the process that was going through, the discussion items being spoken about, and how community members felt about each of these discussion items. So thank you for allowing, that process to be viewed by our community, because it's not necessarily the easiest process in the whole world, but it is important for the transparency of the process so people can understand and our community can understand those discussions as they took place in real time over the last 18 months or so of the process. So thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. We do appreciate that. And as much as we didn't enjoy being on Zoom for so long for doing our work, that technology really allowed us to get this done. And like Paul alluded to earlier, we will be doing, maybe not Zoom meetings, but virtual events will go along with our in-person events moving forward. That was an outgrowth of doing this during a pandemic. We will get better at getting out to people because we'll have different platforms to do it.
Any further questions or comments?
No.
Everyone good? All right, thank you all so much
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Thank you for your time
and,
today.
providing this briefing. All right, folks, we'll be back at 2 o'clock for the directors meeting. See you then.
Yay.
Tom, thank you.